No, I know y'all see the title and you're just kind of sitting there being like, what more is there left to say about Mohammed Hijab and the case against him? I watched that horrible debate between him and Apostate Prophet a total of 3 times, and by far the most frustrating part to watch is when they discuss freedom of speech. Now, I don't have 4 degrees. I'm still working on my first degree because I got into school in 2018 and I'm doing it part-time while I work and try to support myself. So I want to refer to Google for some of the things that I'm going to look up today. Please don't judge me. But some of the most frustrating conversations that they had were around freedom of speech. And Mohammed Hijab alleged that anything that he had said up to this point was in line with the law, that there were no cases against him, and that he had, he could not be tried for anything that he had said up until this point. And I want to kind of throw down the gauntlet today and contest that, because a lot of what he said was incitement to targeted harassment, which would fall under cyberbullying and stuff like that. There was sexual harassment against the wives of Apostate Prophet Abdullah Samir, Abdullah Gondal, and so on. And the third thing was the incitement to push someone towards suicide and self-harm. Now, I don't want to trigger anybody, so if this is not the kind of discussion that you want to participate in, please do feel free to leave. Leave your comment, be like, Fade, like, fuck you for, hosting this discussion at all. Like, this was extremely triggering for me. Feel free to leave that comment and leave. But this is what we're doing today. Now, I want to briefly, I've just got my phone in front of me, and the screenshots that I'm going to put up are from Mohammed Hijab's page so that he can't run and say that, oh, I didn't say this, oh, I didn't mean that. But I am just going to be, referring to Google for all of my information. So if you're against that, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have 4 degrees to refer to, constantly appeal to authority while I make my case. So we're going to quickly look up freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, according to the dictionary, is the power or right to express one's opinions without censorship, restraint, or legal penalty. And it is also Article 10 of the Human Rights Act. Everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to uphold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority, regardless of frontiers. Freedom of speech means that you can say whatever the fuck you want. But that does not mean that we cannot express distaste or disdain for what you have said. A lot of the argument had to do with the fact that, you insult the Prophet, you desecrate the Quran, and you say freedom of speech. Yes, we do that, but we also don't say that you don't have a right to be offended by that. You are entitled to feel offended by the desecration of the Quran, by us mocking the Prophet, by us mocking Islam. You are entitled to that. In the same way, we are entitled to tell you that you done fucked up when you sexually harass, when you incite suicide, when you targeted harass people online for their opinions. We're allowed to be offended and be angry and tell you that what you've done is fucked up. We've not said that you can't say that. So first and foremost, I want to look into the sexual harassment part of it, because I genuinely believe that it's sexual harassment, and I'll put up the screenshots for what Mohammed Hijab has said in terms of that. So we're going to go to the citizen's advice. Sexual harassment is unwanted behavior of a sexual nature which violates your dignity, makes you feel intimidated, degraded, or humiliated, creates a hostile or offensive environment. You don't need to have previously objected to someone's behavior for it to be considered unwanted. What is the effect or intention behind the behavior? Sexual harassment is a form of unlawful discrimination. Under the Equality Act 2010, the law says that it's sexual harassment if the behavior is either meant to or has the effect of violating your dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating, or offensive environment. According to Victim Support in the UK, sexual harassment is any kind of unwanted behavior of a sexual nature that makes you feel humiliated or intimidated or creates a hostile environment. When someone calls you insulting sexual names, talks about you in a sexual way that makes you feel uncomfortable, or spreads sexual rumors about you, that's sexual harassment. It can happen in person, over the phone, or online. And I would allege is a key word. I would allege that the statements that Mohammed Hijab has made towards apostate prophet Abdullah Samir and Abdullah Gondal, according to what he has said in relation to them, bestiality, incest, like all of that stuff, constitutes sexual harassment against them. And then also the things he has said towards their wives, specifically Jana Ayadamir, who is apostate prophet's wife, when he made those statements about his weird, cringy fantasies about what he would do to her intellectually, and I'll leave the screenshot here, that would constitute sexual harassment. And you are actually going against the law of the land by doing that. And by the way, unwanted sexual advances is also against their policy. While some consensual nudity and adult content is permitted on Twitter, we prohibit unwanted sexual advances and content that sexually objectifies an individual without their consent. This includes, but is not limited to, sending someone unsolicited and or unwanted adult media, including images, videos, and GIFs, unwanted sexual discussion of someone's body, solicitation of sexual acts, and any other content that otherwise sexualizes an individual without their consent, which further reinforces that you have gone against not just the UK's policy on sexual harassment, but also Twitter's policy on sexual harassment. Now to look at targeted harassment. Twitter actually doesn't allow targeted harassment, and I don't know why you haven't been banned on the grounds that you have incited targeted harassment against ex-Muslims on the platform. According to Twitter and their abusive behavior policy, encouraging or calling for others to harass an individual or group of people. We prohibit behavior that encourages others to harass or target specific individuals or groups with abusive behavior. This includes, but is not limited to, calls to target people with abuse or harassment online and behavior that urges offline action such as physical harassment. Now, obviously, Mohammed Hijab has not incited that people take physical methods to harass apostate prophet and Abdullah Gondal and Abdullah Samir, but he has definitely incited others to go and harass these people online. Last and final, Twitter also has a policy about wishing or hoping serious harm on a person or a group of people. Now Mohammed Hijab has definitely, on record, said that apostate prophet should kill himself, should commit suicide. And Twitter has a policy against that. And we're also going to look into the legality of that. Twitter's policy on that is, we do not tolerate content that wishes, hopes, or expresses a desire for death, serious bodily harm, or fatal disease against an individual or group of people. This includes, but is not limited to, hoping that someone dies as a result of a serious disease, wishing for someone to fall victim to a serious accident, or saying that a group of individuals deserves serious physical injury. Twitter, you need to ban Mohammed Hijab because he has gone against all three of these in your section against abusive behavior. Now, inciting suicide, is it legal? So, according to CPS, suicide policy for prosecutors in respect of cases of encouraging or assisting suicide. This is a very, very long document, so we might skip, or I might read all of this and cut it down. A person commits an offense under Section 2 of the Suicide Act 1961 if he or she does an act capable of encouraging or assisting the suicide or attempted suicide of another person, and that act was intended to encourage or assist suicide or an attempt at suicide. This offense is referred to in this policy as encouraging or assisting suicide. The consent of the Director of Public Prosecutions is required before an individual may be prosecuted. The offense of encouraging or assisting suicide carries a maximum penalty of 14 years imprisonment. This reflects the seriousness of the offense. Committing or attempting to commit suicide is not, however, itself a criminal Act. Section 2 of the Suicide Act 1961 was amended with effect from 1st February 2010. It is therefore essential that prosecutors identify the timing of any act of encouragement or assistance that is alleged supports the bringing of a criminal charge relating to the suicide or attempted suicide of the victim. In these cases, for the evidential stage of the full code test to be satisfied, the prosecution must prove that the suspect did an act capable of encouraging or assisting suicide or attempted suicide of another person, and the suspect's acts were intended to encourage or assist suicide or an attempt at suicide. To conclude, Mohammed Hijab, you are not in the clear, in full purview of the law for the things that you have said against these people. You are not in the clear. And also to reach out to IERA and Sapiens Institute. I don't know why Sapiens Institute continues to allow this man to represent them, not just as a da'i and a proselytizer of Islam, but why you still have him within your institute when he is clearly, like without a shadow of a doubt, guilty, at least on a social level, of sexual harassment and inciting people to commit suicide and targeted harassment, which all three of them go against Twitter's rules, and two of them are actually not legal, and he could be charged for this crime. I don't understand why you still protect him and have him when I assume that your moral code in terms of Islam would go against that. Anyway, so today has just been about this. I just wanted to present that Mohammed Hijab is not in the clear in full purview of the law for what he has said. You are inciting harm on these people, whether or not you agree to it, and whether or not you were using it, like you weren't using a hypothetical, you were actually going after these people and their wives and their loved ones. It doesn't make sense to me that you would do that. And in addition to that, you were inciting others to go against them as well. Like you were inciting harassment you were encouraging your following to continue harassment on your behalf, which I find all of it is just truly weird and disgusting. I know you've made a statement about it to your Muslim followers, but I think an apology is required for you to state just on a human level. Like, you need to apologize for the things that you have said, and until you do, I do think that these offenses are things that you could be taken to task for, and I would actually advise quite strongly that people do take you to task for them, because it's quite honestly unacceptable for a da'i, for someone who proselytizes Islam, to be behaving in this way. And this is an apostate saying that. Like, this goes beyond a normal discussion about religion and mockery and blasphemy and those kinds of things. This goes beyond that. This goes into personal attacks and actually inciting harm on other people. Lastly, there has been some kind of demand for me to talk about the desecration of the Quran. Personally, I'm not too big on blasphemy, but Blasphemy Day is coming up on the 30th of September, so anything that I will be attempting in that regard will be done on Blasphemy Day. I will reserve it to that day. I'm not going to do it here and now. Last year we did a drawing of the Prophet Muhammad where I did a tutorial of how to accurately draw him with, narrations from the Hadith, as well as, looking at Islamic drawings of him. So drawings of him that have been done by Muslims throughout the years historically. So if you would like to take a look at that, please feel free to. But any desecration of the Quran, I have one copy here, will be done. We're going to look at some Islamic sources on ways that the Quran has been treated and things like that in the Islamic times and according to Islamic scriptures, and then we will look at ways that the desecration of the Quran can be committed. All in all, last and final statement, Mohammed Hijab, you're a piece of shit. And I really, really think that Apostate Prophet, his wife, Abdullah Samir, Abdullah Gondol, and their wives should take you to task for what you've done. Because it's criminal. It's disgusting. It's really, really gross. And you should definitely be taken to task for it. And your claim that you've done nothing that can be legally, you know, detrimental to you is a ridiculous claim. It's a ridiculous claim, and we've shown it here from a layman's perspective. Anyway, thank you for watching. You know, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video.